Welcome back to episode 5 of the Stay Dangerous podcast. If you don't know who I am yet, my name is Greg Sewers. I am the owner of a gym here in Roseville named Map Training, but it's also an online training business, a supplement business, and soon to be, I'm sure, a million other things. And then, of course, I was a professional athlete for 16 years as professional paintball. Don't let your mom tell you that doesn't exist. I travel the world doing it. As always, we're trying to bring you some sort of insight, a new idea, or more importantly, a comparison. Maybe bring in people to interview that could be more similar to you than necessarily I am, and bring you those ideas either new or in a different way. So today, Katheryn Ness, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Greg. I'm very honored to be here.
Um,
Excited to share some Stay Dangerous stuff with you, too.
Yes, that is my favorite part. But first, we got to get through this
Okay.
nonsense self-growth stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I always like to try to paint a picture of who you are. For anyone who's not looking on YouTube, that's not necessarily watching you, but hearing your voice, we want to show them what you're all about. And I think for a lot of people, it starts with, what do you do for a living?
What do I do for a living? Well, I am a business development and marketing consultant, and we focus on the AEC industry. What that stands for is architects, engineers, and contractors. So it's the professional services, if you will, because we're not selling products, we're selling time. And so I've been in this industry for a couple of decades now. Let's just say that, the computer that I originally worked on had a WordPerfect and an amber screen on it, if you remember any of that. It's been a few decades for sure. But I help firms do better at winning jobs and really positioning themselves about the win. It's about the client. It's not about, the history. It has a bit to do with that. It's your credibility, but it's really about how do you address the challenges the client's facing. So that's what I get to do. Travel around the United States helping these firms. So
There you go. You kind of answered my next question. I always like to kind of paint what that is, right? You're talking with people who I'm sure are very exciting people. You said engineers and I cringed, but travel. It's not an office job. It's not really a home job, more of a travel-based job.
Absolutely. I do work from home, which is exciting, but then it's also fall into a rut of like, get up, go to the computer. You're still in your pajamas. Maybe you throw on a sweater or a jacket over your. That has happened a couple. Yeah, very professional. I call it mullet dressing. Business up top and pajamas on the bottom.
I love it. Yeah.
Mullet dressing.
I think you hit it on the money. So many people, especially after this whole COVID spiel, are doing the same thing and maybe just entering travel or now completely from home. So as we get into the fitness nutrition side, you can really relate to those people. Whereas, I'm here at the gym every day. So you hit the bringing value to people thing in your description of what your job is. But more importantly, you're talking to people who don't necessarily want to talk to you, which I find very interesting. So how are you breaking those barriers? I mean, an engineer, they talk to computers, and all the engineers I know are very difficult in social mannerisms in that they just aren't really used to them.
Yeah.
How do you approach it?
You meet them where they are. First of all, if they're an introvert, part of marketing and business development, the people that work with the engineers, we usually work with structural, civil, those types of engineers versus the computer type engineers, okay. Right? So a little bit of difference there. Sometimes the engineers I work with can look at your shoes, not just their own. That's how extroverted they are. It's crazy how that happens. Yeah. But when you go in and you meet them where they are, you understand that, they're not going to come forward with information. You pull it out of them, but you give them time to process things too. And that's really important because they're not the drivers. Sometimes they can be a driver, like, yes, I've got all those, responses real fast. Yet the ones that are the decision makers sometimes have to, like I said, process things. You also come in not salesy, you come in helping, and you don't sell, you help. And when you switch that mindset, you can talk to people. It's like, how can I help?
Yeah. I think a lot of people approach their job, especially, I call it entrepreneur, right? You're part of a business. It's maybe not your business, but your growth level has been insane even since I've known you. And it's amazing to like entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
You're accelerating within your job position, but you're bringing value. Whereas most people would probably look at that and say, oh, my boss, my client is just dead faced. I can't do anything about it. Well, you can, it's all in the approach.
Yeah.
I love that. So in doing that, you're bringing value to people. And in just knowing you, I know how much information you've retained. And, we've talked about books and articles and all these different things. How much of your information in your approach is restated information versus your own original stuff?
It really does depend.
Okay.
Well, I have learned early on there's no original thought. It's just the way you frame it and the way you package it and the way that you bring it to that person. It might be new to them, yet someone else has already said it and tried it. You just have to make sure that it's something that's true and authentic to you that you can put forward. And there is a lot of recycled information. Like I said, it's not always just new stuff. Yet, when you bring it forward to somebody that hasn't had that, I don't want to call it a mind-blowing experience, but something is like, oh, the light bulb goes on. You
Yeah.
can tell. It's like, okay, well, we can do that. Just so it, I'm kind of not answering your question because, well, I did by saying it depends. So,
Yeah.
so that's it.
That's okay. There's no straight answers for a lot of this stuff, right?
Not at all.
And kind of why I went that direction is I've mentioned multiple times on the podcast is MVPs, minimum viable products.
Right.
And in approaching a room full of people or people you don't know and go, hey, let me change how you approach people is really hard. So putting your own spin on things, or more importantly, stumbling through the process. I'm being like, well, I failed the first 10 times, but I'll try again anyways.
Yeah. And it's realizing that it's not, it's a game of continual improvement. Because that, well, when children start to walk, what do? They stumble, they fall. We pick them up and we like, oh, that's great. No problem. Yet we don't give ourselves that privilege, that honor to like, you know what? We stumbled, we fell, we picked ourselves up and we move forward. And being able to do that and help others do that too, give them their grace and space that they can do that, it really does help build not just confidence, but people moving forward and achieving their goals. And that's really what a lot of the stuff is that we do. It's like, okay, you didn't win that one. Why did you not? Why did you stumble? Why did you fail? And sometimes you have to use the harsh words like, why did you fail?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I didn't know the client that well. I didn't know exactly what their problems were. I didn't ask those deeper questions. It's like, how can you not fail next time? How can you learn from this? And, yeah.
That's really cool. And it's funny that you use the baby example. I just brought this up to a client from a fitness standpoint. She got really upset with me because I put running on her schedule, and she's like, I can't run. I'm like, listen, a baby can't run, but did it decide not to crawl? Like, did you try walking? No, you just said I can't run. You didn't do it. Okay. Learn to fail. It's okay, right?
It's okay.
If you're going to fail, you might as well do it now.
Yeah. Fail in a safe space.
Ooh,
Yeah.
very true. So checking your surroundings as you go through this process.
Exactly. Checking your surroundings and knowing that it's okay to fall and you're going to have people to support you. Because a lot of times we think we're alone when we fail. It's like, oh no, other people have failed just as hard as you. And what did they learn? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's already a lot of value in that content of your approach to things and bringing value versus just hitting something as a job facing product, right? In that process and in your development, if you were just to look at another entrepreneur right now, and what would be your greatest piece of advice to help them in this pursuit of growth?
Oh, good question. I think it goes back to that you're not doing it alone. So get a mentor and get a mentor that is outside of your, what you're doing. Somebody that still isn't, entrepreneur, that they have gone through these things too. Because the mentor is going to help you I'm trying to approach this. Is this a good way to do it? And they will give you advice, and maybe they've tried it, or they can give you some resources that would help you, like maybe working through the small business administration. Is there other ways of doing, or maybe there's another organization to get involved with? I think that there's a lot of value in getting a mentor. And I just actually entered, totally vulnerable here, entered a mentorship program that I'm the protege. I am the one being mentored because I don't want to become irrelevant. I want to continue. As I said, I don't want to be a floppy disk.
Yeah. Yes. That is so awesome. And, I always love when things kind of reiterate themselves in new ways, the same way we're talking about from this coaching aspect.
Yeah.
I did a large chunk of another episode about how you should never look at having a coach or a mentor or a personal trainer as a negative thing. The greatest people in the world have coaches.
Absolutely. The most successful people don't have one. They might have a coach, a mentor, and it's going to be a business. It's going to be, my business partner is writing a book. He has a book coach. somebody to help them. It's like, okay, it just helps. It's not just accountability, it's somebody to bounce some ideas off, because you can do as much. I love working on a whiteboard because, like, and then you erase it and bring it in. And you can do a lot of that, but until you say it to somebody that can do a little bit of discerning for you, that's the best way to do it. It's like, okay, have you thought about this? For this to happen, what do you need to do? That would be someone that comes in as a coach would say that to you.
Yes, I've heard so many spins on this kind of goal setting too. I had a client or a friend of mine talk about how his goal was to be able to spend 6 figures on marketing a month. And I thought that was such a cool goal. It wasn't about his total income.
Yeah.
It was about his ability to spend on marketing.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
I mentioned before as one of my goals is I want to be able to have a coach in every aspect of my life, right? Like you said, a writing coach or a podcasting coach or whatever, right?
A fitness coach.
A fitness, oh my
Whoa.
gosh, I'd be superhuman.
Yes.
Right? So veering down the road of this career path, it obviously very much fits your personality, even just talking to you. How'd you end up in this career path?
Wow.
Passion, stumbling, whatever it may be.
I think stumbling is a good way to put
Okay.
it. And it's actually one of my favorite questions to ask marketing and business development people that are in the professional services industry, because you go to college and you go in for marketing, it's product, it's about placement, it's about pricing, it's about selling something. And in marketing professional services, there isn't a there's not a course in college that teaches you how to respond to a request for proposal.
Yeah.
It doesn't teach you how to, the whole AEC industry, architects, engineers, and contractors, and how that is. This industry has only been around since 1972 because it was illegal for professional services to market themselves other than hanging the shingle out in front of their door. And that's all the marketing was. So this is kind of a new ish sort of,
Yeah.
because marketing with the product stuff was, brought really big back in this, 40s and 50s and 60s. If you've ever watched Mad Men, have you watched Mad Men?
I haven't.
Do it. It's one of those, like, oh my gosh, really good.
Okay.
Yeah, really good. But it started with me moving from one career to another, and I started through a temporary agency. I was working in healthcare. I was doing claims benefits, and this is back in the 90s. And I was like, this is too volatile. I don't know what's going to happen. Managed care was just coming around. I'm like, okay, I got to get into something else. So I took a temp job at an engineering firm for a receptionist.
Huh.
And then they found out that I could speak to people. I could write a full sentence, and I was pretty peppy.
Yeah.
I had, but again, I could talk to people, and I was not afraid to just go out and do things. And so that evolved from doing that. I did a little bit of technical work, and then, continued on. It's like, hey, do you want to get into marketing? I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
And there was the stumble right there.
Hold,
Like,
please.
yeah. So I love what I do because it's helping not just me, but it's helping the people in, you flush the toilet. Where does that go? It takes an engineer to figure that out.
Yeah.
You go up in a building and it's safe. Who does that? An architect.
Yeah.
Or you drive down the road. Who does that? So it's really fun to see these projects. I mean, my kids love it. We go driving down the road. It's like, oh, I was with the firm that built that, interchange. I was with it. Yeah. That water treatment plant over there. Yeah.
Take notes, kids. That's really cool. So it wasn't necessarily a passion versus a personality thing that evolved you into career. And you got the opportunity to now chase down this thing you've been doing for how long?
I started in 96.
Okay.
So do the math.
Yeah, do the math. No math over here.
Don't have to.
Since
Yeah.
I
I'm
work
in
at a
marketing.
gym.
I'm in marketing.
Since 96, you literally had this opportunity to chase down this really cool career and now travel for it just because you were good at being a receptionist. So the next time you're flipping French fries, wake the fuck up because you could be
Exactly.
looking at your next possible career.
You bet.
I love that.
You can invent something too. It's like, but what else is out there? So the other part about me is I'm curious. So you say stay dangerous, I say stay curious.
Ooh, I like that. Put the two together and
Yeah.
we're in trouble. Tornado.
No,
So,
kids.
right now, you've been doing this for a long time, and I think you could probably speak to people who have maybe been doing the same thing for a long time. Where's your biggest focus right now in your own either personal or professional growth? I think they overlap a lot here. But are you chasing down clients? Are you working on education? Where is it?
I'm a consummate educator. I always want to keep learning. And so I went through UC Davis professional development, continuing education stuff, and got my coaching credential last year. So now I am pursuing my certifications through the International Coaching Federation for life and personal coach. And it's just a continual process. I have to have so many hours of coaching, professional coaching, and then I'm also focusing on CEOs and leaders. So
There it is.
the leadership part of it is where I'm really helping, because that will transfer over not just from me, my own, something that really brings me a lot of joy is coaching, but how do I work with leaders so that they can be their best? And it's not just about running the numbers, it's not just about running the firm, it's about how can you be the setting the culture for your firm that is going to bring forward what is the best in those people, so helping them be the best so they can be the best for the rest of the company,
For the best of the best of
the
the
best of the
best.
best. But I have to say, best is finite. I want to look at them being better because it's a continual process. It's the infinite thing.
Very good point. So with that being driven down into a goal, it's more opening up opportunities to work with higher level people.
Yeah.
So broadening the client base kind of thing too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my goal for this coming up year is I've got a strong network in the AEC industry. I want to branch out from that. So that's a huge goal for me right there.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I've said it out loud now.
It's a thing. It's a thing. It's
It's
being
a total
manifested.
thing.
I feel like things happen around here too
Yeah,
with the Stay
yeah.
Dangerous podcast. This building was manifested in and of itself. Do you know this story?
No.
So my original location was across the street, and it was maybe a third of the size of the building we're in now. The building across the street that we're in now went vacant, and I was eyeballing it, and I was looking up the owner's property information so that I could send him a handwritten letter per my real estate friend's advice to say, hey, I really want to rent your place. I can't get a hold of you. Da 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 da. I shit you not. The next day, he walked into my door. I never contacted him, never knew him, never got the letter out. He walked in and goes, hey, have you seen the tenant? And I said, no, but I'll rent your place. And he said, okay. And I was in there a month later.
Wow.
But I spent the month prior going, I want that place. We're going to be over there. I started planning events here before I even had the contact information for the guy. It was actually pretty absurd.
Love it.
Yeah.
You put it
full on.
out there and it's going to happen. Exactly.
Damn, well, you start making motions towards it
towards
too,
it
right?
too. Right.
Yes.
You put it out there. Yes.
I love it.
Whether it's God or the universe, I'm
Plan whatever you
plan
want.
whatever
on it.
you
It
want. Right.
happens.
And be very specific of what you want to.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Someone just go back and listen to the episodes and hear the overlap that is happening right now. It makes my heart joyful. So now the fun trending part, right? This is I hate to say self-help, but self-improvement area, right?
Yeah.
But also we focus on fitness and nutrition, right? So you have now a busy job based on meetings that has you traveling. Mm-hmm. What's your fitness life look like?
Oh my goodness, the fitness life. It takes discipline for sure. It's more than just, packing the resistance band in the suitcase, because if it sits there, it's not helping you. So my fitness is coming here the 2 days a week, which is fantastic. And I love the 5 a.m.s. Oh my goodness. I'm a morning person because I know that that's where I'm my best, and I carry through that energy. I just love the energy that I get throughout the day. And it's interesting because my business partners know me so well. When I was traveling and not working these past couple of weeks, their question to me, because they could tell I was in a funk, they said, have you been able to work out? I'm like, no. I'm like, go walk. And they actually said, go for a walk.
That is awesome.
Yes.
The personality built around it.
Yeah, the personality, the energy that is built around that positive energy. It's like, yes, I can. Yes, I can. And that's what it is. It's fulfilling that, yes, I can. Yeah, you get challenges, but you never know. It's like you giving me that, 20-pound weight the other day. It was like, oh, yes, I can.
Yes, you
and
can.
me throwing you back the 25. Yeah.
Damn straight.
Damn straight. Like, yeah. But the routine of travel for eating too is really challenging because you go to these meetings. I was in a meeting last week from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it was productive, but they brought in food and, so
what'd they bring?
Chipotle one day which wasn't too bad.
Yeah, you can manage
right?
it.
And then they also brought in some Mexican food with the beans. So you
Seeing
just,
some overlap
yeah,
there.
seeing some overlap. Yeah, brought in food. But it's also choose wisely. If it's chicken, it's your choice. And how do you feel after that? I didn't eat the cookie. I was really proud of myself.
Good job.
Yep. Saved it for the morning with the coffee.
Take notes over here.
No, nutrition is. I'm a healthy eater for sure. I don't eat sugars. Wait, I can't say absolutes. So sugar comes in the form of wine. I'm rolling my eyes. Comes in the form of wine, but you have to moderate everything for sure. And
Yeah.
just know, yeah, that's it. But I don't eat the refined sugars. Fruit is my sugar. Like if I want to sweeten something, I sweeten it with that. Some honey once in a while, but yeah, the sugars are out. And thanks to you, I'm eating a lot more protein.
Yes.
Yes, I mean
yes.
a lot more
Eat more
protein.
protein, kids.
Yeah, with your veggies.
With your veggies. With your veggies.
So my breakfasts, I will usually do a seeded bread, ancient flourless, the Ezekiel's, I think it's
Yep.
called.
Beautiful.
But then I'll put some avocado in there because I need the oils for my skin. But then I'll do a scrambled egg or a fried egg, without oils.
Yeah.
Put that on top and nummy. But then I also had, oh, this was so good. It was roasted beets, which I know is your favorite, I've heard.
Yeah, me and beets don't get along.
Roasted beets, spinach, and then 2 fried eggs over the top.
Wow.
God, that was
See,
so
I could
good.
buy into that.
Yeah, it was really good. So,
Okay.
So
Okay.
I always mix in a lot of veggies, big veggies.
So that kind of hit my point. When, especially on the go, most people tend to give up. And I use this as an example is, oh, Greg, I couldn't make it to my sandwich today. So I went to Burger King and I got a Whopper. I'm like, what? Those are, you fell running, so you decided not to crawl is what
Right.
happened, right? What is your biggest focus, especially on the go, when it comes to food? Are you watching protein content or are you looking for whole foods? Like, where's your precision?
The whole foods would be more what I look for, and especially organic foods too, because you're realizing that you what you ate is what you becomes part of you. If I
Yes.
can, I'm quoting Sean Stevenson right here, because it is about the organic foods, getting rid of your body's trying to process those toxins and that just takes so much energy. And why not process the food that's actually trying to help your cells grow and help the mitochondria part of it too. I'm not getting into that level. That's your job.
That's okay. I'll dive in as deep as they want to go.
Yeah, I know, I love it. But really looking at the whole foods, non-processed, without the additional sodium or anything else. I also realize how I feel after eating that. I mean, if I were to go to Burger King right now, I would be down for a day, feeling like crap and not at all happy. Not at all happy. Yeah.
Which is motivation in itself, right? So now I'm looking at the picture. Let's say you were at this 9 to 9 meeting and they let you go for lunch instead of bringing lunch in. What would be one of your go-to searches? What are you looking for in the area?
I would probably go to Chipotle because I can manage, get the salad with a protein on it, with the black beans on it, and then kind of regulate. And they're big enough to make 2 meals.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, cool. That's a big recommendation by another fitness speaker, especially when he was trying to gain weight, but he did the very specific formula there. And Chipotle was one of his go-tos. It's something we eat as athletes on the go all the time. But I always think, because people tell me, oh, I have no options. Again, I call bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went to Starbucks. Well, they have the egg and kale, or the egg and kale, the egg and they have the little egg bites.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then the other thing, I make those at home too. So if I travel, like this week when I'm going, I'm going to make a couple of the little egg bites that I make with the chicken sausage with the spinach in it, and carry those on the plane with me too, because it's going to be a long flight. Yeah. Raw almonds are my other snack. Just like 14 raw almonds.
Yeah. Half an ounce. Got you.
14. I don't know if I have an ounce. I just know 14 is what I usually eat.
I always like diving into the nutrition side a little bit, because people all too often come to me and they say, well, Greg, I eat healthy. But healthy means I ate a handful of almonds as a snack, and a handful of almonds could be 1,000 calories of nearly pure fat. So yeah, it's healthy fat, but it is fat nonetheless.
Right.
And if 50% of your diet is fat, you're still not going to burn fat. You're not going to, reach whatever fitness goal you have. unless you're on keto, but that's a story for another
That's
day.
that would be an interesting one. But the other part of the almonds too, if you're hungry, it's much better than chips.
So true.
Much
From a satiation, from a
Yep,
fullness feeling.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Much better because those will satiate. That will satisfy the whole like I'm starving.
Yeah, which
You know.
again, from a chemical standpoint, that I'm starving feeling will actually force your body to crave sugar when
Sugar.
people, tell me all about their cravings. Reason being is your red blood cells and your brain can strictly only function on carbohydrates. There is no other option. So if you don't have carbs, your body will make carbs or send feelings and cravings for
For the
carbs
carbs.
until you give in, and your
Oh my
brain
God,
wins every
I love
time.
that. It's so true. In your brain, you cannot, and it's a hormone they're sending you, and it's like,
Yeah.
what is going on here? Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Ah.
I'm gonna have to say, Eat Smarter, and then that book was fabulous. A lot of the stuff that I was curious, I stayed curious. I dug in a little deeper. I'm like, oh, let's do that. Let's do that. But the almonds for me, traveling, it was very simple to do that too. Almonds, yeah, love
That's
it.
perfect.
Yeah, good
So
stuff.
your nutrition's on point. You're looking for more of a wholesome choice instead of giving in to some of the fast food options, right?
Absolutely.
From the morning standpoint, have you always been a morning person?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I was thinking back. It's like, have I always? Yeah, I have definitely. Unfortunately, still a morning person, even though I stay up to midnight. And I'm like, dang it, I'm up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, so it's funny. People are going to start thinking that this is just a luck of the draw thing because both of our first interviews said, "Well, I'm just a morning person, and I get up at 2:30 and 3 in the morning, so I'm kind of out of the running." People think I'm crazy. So, when,
I'm not a professional. I can't answer that.
right? With obviously, I'd almost say a lack of sleep sometimes because you are going to bed late on occasion. Do you struggle with sleep patterns? Are you doing something to make sure that
Oh,
you're
yeah.
sleeping more deeply?
Yeah, I do struggle with sleep patterns, and it does have a lot. I mean, things change when you get a little older, you know. And I, two things: I have to watch my water intake because I don't want to get up in the middle of the night 12 times. So I try to, curb it. I drink most of my water, and I drink maybe 80 plus ounces a day. I love water. I'm one of those wackadoodles that I always have my water bottle with me. Wackadoodle is a poodle crossed with no, a wackadoodle. So the intake, but the sleep pattern. Yeah, I definitely wake up a little bit earlier, and there's been a few times where it's like, why didn't I go to sleep? Caffeine I also watch, and then I close the kitchen about 7 o'clock, so I know my body is not processing foods too. So that also helps me with my sleep pattern. The other thing I've done is I have no electronics in my bedroom except the radio because I do fall asleep to classical music because
There you
it's
go.
soothing.
Yeah.
I have blackout curtains, and then I make the room as dark and quiet as possible.
With the intention of hitting REM sleep.
REM sleep. Yep.
There it
The
is.
deep sleep as much as I can. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I've got my electronic thing that helps me measure that as well. And I also realize it's like, ooh, I'm not a really good sleeper.
Yeah, I try not to look at my charts because it's not pretty. But I actually kind of like that it's not pretty
Yeah.
because you're doing it anyways, right? So at some point you can take all of these measures to try to make sure that you get the most sleep and all the sleep you can. And if you make the mistake, you just get the fuck up. Like,
Exactly.
like you didn't keel over and call me and say, "Hey, I'm not getting up this morning."
Right.
Right? That to me is very admirable because I think people use it as a crutch all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I know that I get the energy from working out too.
Okay, so there's a reasoning behind it.
There is a reasoning behind
Okay.
it. Exactly. So it's just get up and go.
But you have to go do it to experience
Yeah.
that. Start.
Just start. The other thing too, I think I told you I have a sister who's disabled.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
What a motivator.
Oh.
What a motivator. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like, what's your problem? You can get out of bed. My sister, she's paralyzed on one side. So you want to talk about
Yeah, you get to. You
I
don't
get
have to.
to.
You get to.
Correct.
That is one phrase that I stole. I want to say it's from Atomic Habits or from Ed Milet, another large speaker.
Yeah.
Where they said, well, things don't happen to you; they happen for
for
you,
you.
right? And more importantly, I don't have to go work out.
I
I
get
get to
I
go
get
work
to
out.
and you shift that mindset. I mean, that's what it's all about. And then you prep, you get your stuff ready. Take away those excuses, the atomic habits thing you just said.
Yeah.
You take away those excuses of like, oh, I can't find my shoes. Have them ready and have your socks next to them.
Right.
Have your workout. Have everything right there. I mean, I even lay it out where it goes on in order. So the pants, the top, the bra, and the panties are in that order. So it's like I cannot, it's like, oh, they're out of order. Because when you get up at 4:30,
Things get weird.
things, yeah, and I have my water set out. I have my smasher, the pre-workout stuff. Have that all ready. And
Cheers.
Cheers, exactly. I have to do that, otherwise, like setting up my day for the next day.
Yeah.
I'm living in the moment, but I'm also preparing so I don't have that rush in the morning. Like I've got a 7 a.m. call. I preset my coffee.
Yeah.
Actually, I use my coffee as my alarm clock. I can smell it versus, I love it.
Before I married my wife, my bachelor pad, I had a coffee maker in my bedroom and in the kitchen. And the one in my bedroom would start brewing at 4:30 in the morning, and I'd wake up to the smell of it before I woke up to my alarm. Can I tell you how joyful that is?
It is so joyful.
It's
Yes,
amazing.
It is. I love the smell of coffee. So yeah, same thing.
Same thing.
So you wake up to something other than that startled shock.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Beep beep.
Right. So in this process, I chase down a lot of the things that I hear other, what I would say, great people do. And one of those things is meditation. Another thing is doing something cold. But more recently, something that seems to be surfacing quite often is gratitude. Like gratitude does not have to be like dropping to your knees and praising something, right? It could be as simple as how much you love the smell of coffee in the morning. If you're a coffee drinker, you know exactly what the fuck we're talking about.
Exactly. Just give me my coffee. Yeah.
Right? If you're a runner, maybe that runner's high. And if you're none of the above, well, maybe you just haven't done it long enough to try and find out, right?
Right. You haven't given yourself the opportunity, the space to do it. Yeah, that's
Totally.
part of the thing too. Gratitude is huge. I wake up. That's part of my practice as well. Is before I get out of bed, it's like, how do I want? What's my intention for the day? And then at the end of the day, as I'm crawling into bed, one of the practices too is like grateful. And did I stay true to that intention? So it's an accountability thing for me too. It's hard. I'm going to tell you, I'm not always successful, but having that. Going to bed with that gratitude. It's, we used to say that, mom and dad used to tuck us in and say our prayers. Yeah. It's still the grateful thing. It's not you don't have to get down on your knees. Exactly.
Sure.
The full moon the other night was amazing. I was like, oh, how beautiful. Yeah.
Right. Simple things, right? And obviously you're a pretty confident person. Do you feel self-confident?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, right. Well, confidence comes from keeping the promises to yourself after you make them, right? So telling yourself you're going to be grateful for a day and then doing it, or telling yourself you're going to get up and go to the gym and then doing it over and over makes you a confident person. It's not something you are inherently born with.
Yeah. There's the mindset also of like when you achieve a goal, give yourself a reward. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to give myself, like, I'm going to go to the movies. But just recognizing you have achieved a goal and how does that feel for you?
Yeah.
Just recognizing that I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm, fulfilling something that gives me joy.
I look at it like a video game.
Yeah.
I look at it like leveling up. So every time I achieve something, I'm like, cool, now my next level, my next capability is here, and I get excited about the next one, right? So every time I get stuck at a level, like I keep losing, I'm just that much more motivated to get to the next level.
You're learning a lot of ways not to win.
Oh, man, thank you for saying it that way, because even right there, I was like, oh, God, I suck today. No.
No, you don't. You just learned a way not to do it. But then you step away and you come back, and your brain, that's what fascinates me about our brains, these human brains that we have. When we're trying to solve a problem and we're stuck on it, if you walk away, go outside, get away from it, your brain's still working on it. You can come back and your brain, it's going to be like, oh yeah, there it is.
Totally.
Crazy. So the same thing. Just step away when you're frustrated. Yep.
It's like from a fitness standpoint, taking an off day, how difficult that can be sometimes, even knowing how beneficial it can be for your body to just take a day off.
Yeah.
Convince yourself to do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
Just do it.
But don't use that as the excuse. It's my off day. Well, you had off day yesterday too. So.
Right. Yeah. Very true.
You have to.
I think this is really cool. So even from traveling, changing careers along the way, which we didn't dive too deep into, but how you're managing when you don't get sleep, right? Being a little grateful for the things that you can make happen. And it definitely seems like you've taken a more mindful path to make all of this work for you. And I'm sure that's going to hit home with some people. You hit home with me with, you're like, well, I'm mindful and I do all these things, but sometimes I just fucking do it. Like, that's me. I get that. I love that. I hold on to those things. So now is when I like to move on to my favorite part. And we got to chat about this during sessions one day, but so you travel for work and you have this nice career of chatting people and making them improve. What is your most dangerous story?
Oh my goodness. Well, other than being a mom of two boys, that no, that doesn't count.
Risky.
Oh yeah. I am very proud of myself. I'm a risk taker. Yet I always like to take calculated risks. But sometimes they pop up and you look back and go, "Oh shit, how did I do? How did that happen? Oh my god, I'm so glad I lived through it."
Made it.
So, my husband of the time, sailor, really accomplished sailor, but we had a 33-foot Morgan, which is a ocean type vessel. It's an older, heavy displacement boat, and so we went out sailing from the underneath the Golden Gate and headed south to Half Moon Bay. And the weather was fine. You always check the weather, but we sailed down there. It was great. Next morning, we woke up to the sound. We could hear helicopters, and so that was pretty rare in Half Moon Bay. But right on the other side, there's Mavericks over there, which is a big surf spot, and the helicopters were filming the surfers, and you start thinking, well, if there's surfers, that means there's high surf, and we're like, oh shit. So we checked the weather charts, listen to the weather, and it turns out that there was a very large storm up over by Alaska, but it was creating these massive waves that were heading down the whole Pacific coast.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we, like button everything up, we head out and get out to sea and then start heading back to the bay, San Francisco Bay, to head back in. And we are on the south side of the channel, so that's where the big ships come in, the big shipping channel. So we're on the south side there, and David walks downstairs. He's checking charts, and he told me to watch out for a certain area. It's called the Potato Patch, which is on the north side of the channel. And I yell down, it's like, oh, look, the Potato Patch is right there. He comes up, looks around, grabs the charts, heads back downstairs, comes back on with a life vest, and he said, you go down, get your life vest on, because we don't wear life vests. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Comes back up after I come up. He said, put the slats in the companionway and then lock that. He goes, we are south of the Potato Patch, but what we had were 28-foot breaking swells. Now, when you look at the top, yeah, we had to maneuver these swells. So it's basically, we had the head sail up and motoring. So we had, he was accomplished at this. I'm just sitting there. My job was to make sure that nothing was breaking over the back as we're scooting down, trying to go faster than the waves.
Yeah.
And then between the troughs of the waves, we are actually trying to motor as fast as we can and come back up over. I'm using my hands, so hopefully it's
like staying out of the crash.
Staying out of the crash and just basically surfing the wave down in the sailboat, but not letting it crash on us. Oh my God. So we finally make it back in. We make it to the shipping channel. Of course, it's a little deeper, so it's not quite as rough. But we get back in under the gate, and he turned around and looked at me, and he goes, I've never been through anything like that before. And we're like, and it seriously was my first time out on the ocean sailing.
No, I didn't know that part.
The other part about that. And I went out again a couple of times. So
yes,
it was like, definitely we did have a couple of rums.
Yeah.
Toasting. It's like, holy shit.
Toasting survival.
Exactly. And toasting, staying calm. That was the other thing too. You cannot, when you're in a shit situation like that, I've heard your story about the outmaneuvering, you just have to stay laser focused, and you have to, stay calm.
Yeah.
And get out of it.
That's I'm trying to picture a 33-foot boat going over 28-foot waves.
Right. So you think about the mast being up so high. So it's basically all we saw was water on both sides of us in the trough of the wave. Yeah, they were crazy, absolutely crazy waves. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Did anyone else see you guys maneuvering this?
I have no idea.
You just came in soaking wet. We're like, run now.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, we were dry. That was sure. We didn't have any crashes. We didn't have anything. It was, and he's a skilled sailor for sure. He was in the Coast Guard, so he knew what to do. But yeah.
That's so amazing. The whole maneuvering thing. And so I don't know yet from talking to enough people if this is a personality trait thing, like a mindset thing, or if it is a human nature, because you have fight or flight, which a lot of people, they use it well. A lot of people are actually dysfunctional in that, they get anxiety or stress and these other things.
Or they freeze.
They freeze.
Yeah.
Yes. I just told the Run of the Bull story, and I didn't sell out my friend, but one of them froze. I froze during the run. He froze in front of a bull. yeah, the bull just decided not to go after him. He would have been toast. It was
Jeez.
crazy. Yeah, and he was like, "Do you guys see me stand off?" We're like, "You didn't do that on purpose. We saw it."
You froze.
But I think there's this step above fight or flight where the adrenaline is so high and it becomes such a dangerous maneuvering situation that there's this calmness to it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's what you just described.
Yeah.
I know I've had it, and I definitely want to hear more people if they have it, or
Yeah.
if they're like, "Well, I just got lucky."
It was super. I mean, we had our functions. It was very clear instructions of what we had to do. And so I think that people do have the adrenaline just to keep them going. I mean, like, when somebody's, like a mother will go and I've done, I don't think anything that I can really share, but being able
Yes.
to save, being able to take care of children, like, swooping up real fast, what are those reactions that done? Yeah, it's kind of crazy. There's a couple car accidents that I avoided by some, I always say I have a guardian angel, but
Yeah.
it's also quick maneuvering. Fortunately nobody was on the sidewalk, but I drove up on the sidewalk to
Wow.
not get squished between a bus and a car not braking.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's the awareness, just letting your body do, let the reaction happen.
What it wants to do. To me, it's not even the situation that you were in. That's the premise of Stay Dangerous. When I talk about it, it's that feeling, it's that sensation, and coming out on top and be like, oh yeah, well, I went out sailing again. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you and I would both be willing to go onto a curb and
Yeah.
figure it out from there, instead of going, well, I had no choice, and getting crushed.
Yeah.
Right? I think so many people sit back and go, well, I had no choice. That's
Yeah.
You always have a choice.
Always have an out. I mean, that's one thing I learned in driver's ed. Do they still have driver's ed? Yeah, you learn in driver's ed is always have an out.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not going to be conventional. It is going to be drive up on the sidewalk.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
So you were with an experienced sailor, but I think there's a premise to, I always say you have a bar for how dangerous you want to be. Right. So I feel personally, I feel like my bar is fairly high.
Yeah.
But that's my bar for enjoyment, I guess. So if I do something super dangerous, like take 33-foot boats over 28-foot waves, I'm going to study. I'm going to look ahead. I'm going to have someone who knows what they're talking about and try to do it as safely as I can.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to ride a bike, I'll do it upside down on my head. Like, I'm not nearly as worried about something so simple
Yeah.
because I'm just trying to hit that same bar all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, I will have to say it was just, we had no choice. We had to get back. I mean, we could have waited the storm out, but we needed to get back, and we didn't realize those waves are going to be there. But like I said, I am a taking risks, calculated risk taker. Like when I moved to the Caribbean, I moved to the Caribbean. I took a 2-week recon trip just to see like what was the vibe, how did that go?
Yeah.
Moved there anyway.
Didn't go great. Moved there anyway.
Moved there. No, it actually went really well. I'm like, yeah, I like it.
That's amazing.
Step outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? And when you ask yourself that, it's like, well, this could happen. Like, well, the other side of that can happen too.
Yeah.
You could have a terrible time. You could have a great time.
Yep.
Right. I could not find a job. You could find a job. What is the other side of that argument that you're saying to yourself? Step outside of it.
Yes. Yeah. And, I think you nailed it. And just to round it off, I was talking to someone who is 25, 26. She has done a lot of the same adventures that we have. And now she's doubling back and she's like, oh, well, I feel old to go to school. And I feel, I know, trust me, I'm 33. And I was like, you're not old.
Yeah.
And went through the spiel. And I said to her, the same thing was, I would much rather hire someone that has life experience, that can maneuver around people, that can talk to people, that has these, I don't want to say innate, but has these more developed skill sets than someone that has book information.
Correct.
Every time.
Every time. 100%. That's, like hiring right now, people are having a hard time. It's look outside of what those qualifications are. What's the human side of that qualification that you want? It's not the skill set, it's the aptitude and the attitude that really you can't hire for. You can teach a monkey how to put together a proposal. Sorry. It's nothing but a bunch of, you have to read it, but it's like, what's the attitude to dig deeper and be curious? And what's the aptitude to go and ask the questions of like, okay, this doesn't make sense to me. How am I going to bring this forward? And again, that's part of that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. So
I like it. So to round it out, 1, go after it.
go after it.
Yeah. 2, find your skill sets, even if it's a personality trait, and chase those down.
Yeah.
be the best at whatever you're doing now.
What fulfills you is the big thing.
What fulfills you?
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think that rounds out the whole idea. Did I miss anything?
That's it. No, just stay dangerous.
Stay dangerous. I love it.
There you go.
Thank you so much for coming in. I
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate the information.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, I hope it relates to someone, and more importantly, it was fun for us.
It was. It was. Well, we'll share with your friends for sure. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
love it. So thanks, Greg.
Of course. Until the next one.
Until the next one.